I'll be honest, I take great joy in trying to find circumstances and environments where I can play Marvin Gaye that are outside of the bedroom. So, thank you for indulging me on that. So, I've got a presentation here today. The theme of the entire weekend is Build Your Empire. And I don't know if I can pull up my slides here. The topic that I came up with is Eternal Empire, right? And it's building an AI, or building a business, a legacy business, utilizing AI and ancient Roman wisdom, right? So, an empire, right? What type of credentials do I have when it comes to building empires? What type of empire building credentials do I have? Well, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I don't really have any, right? My empire building credential knowledge starts and ends with the movie Gladiator. So I've watched that movie like 10 times. So it's like a 3-hour movie, so I've got like 30 hours under my belt, so it's a little something, right? But I wouldn't call myself an empire builder by any stretch. What else we got? So I read the book Meditations this year, and that was written by a Roman emperor. It was written by Marcus Aurelius. It's like a 100-page book. It took me 6 months, so still not doing too good here. All right, what else we got? What type of empire building credentials do I have? Oh, so I think I might have had a dream at one point or another that I was a Roman emperor, but it's a little fuzzy, and I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think I might have just actually been leaving a toga party, and by this picture, also got hit by a car on the way home. So I don't really have any empire building credentials, right? We've established that, but I do have a few things, a few skills, resources that I think can be beneficial to me figuring this out and sharing it with you guys today, right? So what do I have? Well, one thing that I do have access to is artificial intelligence, right? And artificial intelligence is basically trained on the entire internet, right? It's got trillions and trillions of data parameters that it learns off of, and I can use that to my advantage, right? What else do I have? Well, I think I'm generally pretty inquisitive. I feel like I can ask a lot of good questions to get the answers that I need and utilize those answers to my advantage. If you were to ask any of my friends, any of my family, definitely my wife, they'll probably describe me in one word, and that one word would be stubborn. So that can be advantageous in this scenario because me personally, I can't stand the word no, right? And I don't like the word impossible, and I like a challenge. I like being able to turn the impossible into possible. I myself, I do have a business. Before this weekend, I never really thought of it as an empire, but the idea of potentially turning it into an empire is definitely intriguing to me, especially when you look at the alternative, which is to spend all my life building this thing and then ultimately have it dissipate and wane over time. So that's all I got, but that's gonna have to be good enough. So what I'm gonna do, I think is pretty unorthodox. I don't know if this has ever really been done in a live event format like this, but what I'm gonna do is walk you through my creative development process, and in doing so, explain to you guys how asking really good questions can ultimately turn into leadership and instruction that can ultimately lead to innovation, right? And beyond that, we're gonna create something together. It's gonna be a solution that we can all leverage, that's gonna have multiple sub-solutions that live within inside it that we can implement into our businesses and our roles that can help us build that legacy that ripples through eternity. So, I knew I was gonna be speaking at the movement. I've always admired the people that have come to these events because they always wear their heart on the sleeve. They've always been extremely vulnerable, right? And share some really intimate personal details. And it got me thinking, and this is my first question, right, that I asked artificial intelligence. What's the number one most vulnerable thing that you can do in 2024? What was that? Put Trump on your bumper. Nice. That's pretty good, but I would argue, and I've got no data to substantiate this, that sharing your search history on a public stage in a public forum is pretty vulnerable. I don't know if anybody has done that before, so I'm gonna do that. All right, so when I think of build your empire, just basic word association, I latch on to the word empire, right? So when I think of empires, I just think of Rome. That's the one that I think of. That's the first one that pops into my brain. But obviously, there's a whole bunch of other empires that have existed throughout human history, right? Rome's one of them, but you've got the British Empire, you've got the Russian Empire, you've got the Spanish Empire, Ottoman Empire, all these empires, right? But as I got this back from artificial intelligence, as I kind of took this walk down memory lane through my 7th and 8th grade history class, I'm starting to think, I'm like, oh, well, when I think of empires, like, those are all historical, right? That you don't really think of them as being influential or dominant in today's landscape. So that led me to my second question that I pushed over to artificial intelligence, which essentially just revalidated what I already knew, which was how many of those empires had the capability to withstand time? How many of them are actually relevant today, right? Well, none of them, right? So I'm not feeling great about this. I'm like, oh, man, do I have to come up with a different topic? I'm already pretty deep into this presentation. So I wanted to explore that a little bit more. So the next question I asked is like, well, why? Why do all empires ultimately crumble? Why do they all fail? Why do they not have the capability to withstand the test of time? And when I pushed that over to artificial intelligence, I got a long-ass dissertation of like 3,000 words for every single empire and why they all failed. And there's a lot of individual reasons. I didn't feel like reading through all of that, so I just basically prompted the AI to summarize the 3 basic reasons as to why all empires crumble. And basically what it boils down to is lack of vision and poor decision making. That's number 1. The second thing is that these empires weren't able to see into the future, right? They had blinders on. They started smelling themselves. They got real too complacent. They got real too sedentary, right? And they didn't evolve with the changing times. And then the third thing was that they just didn't have continuity in place. They didn't have a succession plan. A lot of these empires had a really great emperor, right? Or a series of emperors, and then they had one okay emperor that followed, and things kind of started to fall apart at the seams. So when you look at that and you think about it, it's like, oh, that's 3 pretty simple reasons. That makes sense, right? So I'm feeling pretty anxious. I'm thinking I can actually wrap this presentation up pretty quickly. And my next question was, how can I build an empire that will last forever, right? Well, I'll just get one more slide and we can call it a day. What was interesting, as soon as I fired off that question, AI basically stopped me in my tracks and said, no, dude, you're crazy. You can't do that. It's impossible. It's unethical. It had all of these reasons as to why it's not possible. And now I'm feeling a little defeated because I'm like, oh man, am I supposed to get up here and just like lie to these guys and tell them they can build an eternal empire when there's really nothing to substantiate that? Well, this is where my stubbornness comes in, right? This is where wanting to turn impossible into possible becomes hugely advantageous. And also, knowing how to frame questions into instructions really matters. So this is a long question that turned into, well, it's not really a full question now. This is a prompt, right? This is my elongated prompt. But this is basically what I went back to artificial intelligence with after it said that you couldn't build an eternal empire that will last forever. And I think it's important that I read it for you because we're going to break it down sentence by sentence to figure out actually what makes a good prompt versus a bad prompt. So here we go. So this is what I said to AI. I said, imagine that you're an entrepreneur or an ambitious salesperson who wants to build a legacy. Think of an empire in the context of a business, not a political unit made up of territories. Keep in mind that the primary reasons all empires fall are poor decision-making, lack of adaptation, and failure in succession. What would you propose as a solution to build an empire that can withstand the test of time? Develop a solution as one overarching product with each subcomponent as a direct way to combat each of these 3 primary problems. Explain the solution and sub-solutions in bullets consisting of no more than 20 words each. Okay, it's a lot longer than how can you make an empire last forever? Now, why is this better than that original prompt? Well, the first thing that it does is it has the artificial intelligence adopt a persona. We give it an identity. We say, imagine that you are a business owner or an ambitious salesperson, right? So it takes on that form. Then we have artificial intelligence think, right? We say, think of an empire in the context of a business, not just a political unit or a territorial unit. Then we have AI reflect. We have it use its memory. We have it go back to the historical conversation and chat history and the knowledge that it has, and we say, keep in mind that. Wait, we represent the problems, right? The three primary problems. Then we ask AI for its thoughts. This is where the question comes in. What would you propose, right? And then we give it an objective. We say, develop a solution. But the objective isn't just a loose objective of develop a solution and sub-solution. We give it clear guardrails. We give it parameters. We give it specifications so that when it generates the output, it's going to match what we're expecting. And this is the basis of a good prompt, but it's still not perfect. And I want everybody to know here, you've got all the resources that I'm going to share with you, including all of my prompts and the evolution of the prompt, in the Eternal Empire Framework resources that were handed out with you here today. And you actually will have a digital copy as well. So what's the big takeaway here, right? What do I want you guys to think about? Well, I've consulted with dozens and dozens of businesses that range from less than $1 million to upwards of 400 million with a handful of employees to really organizations that have upwards of 10,000 employees. And for the most part, people are pretty excited about adopting artificial intelligence and implementing it into their workflows to just gain productivity and efficiency and essentially buy back their time. But there are a handful of people that put up resistance, and they say, oh, AI sucks, man. It can't write like me, right? It can't create graphics like me. It can't analyze spreadsheets like me. It can't brainstorm like me. And after I get done kind of like rolling my eyes, or trying to hide the fact that I'm rolling my eyes, I ask them to kind of open up the can of worms and let's look at how you're interacting with the artificial intelligence. And what I find out is that a lot of their prompting looks like how I started out this presentation, which is just giving a very loose question or a loose prompt with really no good instruction and direction. So the takeaway is AI doesn't suck, your prompting techniques do. So you might think to yourself, okay, well, Stefan, I'm not like you. I don't know how to necessarily write a good prompt, and maybe I don't want to be bothered with writing a good prompt. So you can actually go online, check out Indeed. You can check LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, job boards. One of the hottest jobs right now that people are hiring for is called prompt engineer. And they're paying exorbitant salaries with cushy benefit plans and upwards of $250,000 to just bring in a single resource that's going to write prompts for everybody in the organization. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's nice, and there's value to those individuals that come in. But you don't need to be a prompt engineer, and you don't need to hire a prompt engineer for $250,000. You can if you want, but I'm going to tell you it's a bad investment, because an expert tip is you can have the AI adopt the persona and be your prompt engineer for you. So what you should do is take your okay prompt or not so good prompt and feed that into artificial intelligence and basically just say, be a prompt engineer and make this prompt better. That's it. And that's what I did, guys. You actually will have my elongated prompt that I fed back into artificial intelligence to develop the solution that will help us build empires that will last forever. I didn't include it in the presentation because it's about 1.5 pages long. So what was the result? What did artificial intelligence finally come up with after we got this AI-enhanced prompt? Polished up and sent over back into AI. Well, AI and I, it's a really important phrase I want you guys to kind of just remember. AI and I were able to create the Eternal Empire Framework. Okay, so what is the Eternal Empire Framework? Well, the Eternal Empire Framework, this is something that we just created overnight. This is brand new. I'm revealing it to you now. You guys are my guinea pigs. So the Eternal Empire Framework solves for those three problems, remember, right? The first problem was poor vision, poor decision making. So what we came up with to solve for that is something called the Imperial Prioritization Index, which is a lot of syllables and a lot of vowels, so I'm just going to call it the IPI. So it looks pretty complicated on the board, right? But it's not that complicated. This isn't rocket science, I promise. You don't need to know calculus to figure this out. You don't need to know how to program. Okay, what the IPI is it's a scoring methodology. It allows you to look at everything that you have to do on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis within your role, and it can also allow business owners to look at everything that they want to do, all of the opportunities that exist within their business, and basically score those so you can prioritize the things that are going to make the biggest impact, right? So what is impact? Impact is basically just the ability to drive revenue. Right? You take impact and you multiply that by confidence. What is confidence? Confidence is your belief that it's going to work, that there's no way that I'm not going to make money if I do this. Right? That's a high confidence. You score that a 10. And you take that multiplication of impact and confidence, and then you divide it by the level of effort. Right? Effort is what? It's time and money. If it's something that's going to take you 15 minutes, but it's going to make you 15 grand, well, that's low effort. That's probably something you should be doing. If it's going to take you 15 weeks and require you to take out a mortgage, well, that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of time and resources, right? So that's a higher effort score. And you divide that by an alignment score. What is alignment? It's how well does it fit into what you're doing today? I like to use roofing business as an example. You could be an awesome roofing business, and you might just have a dream and the ambition of opening up a pizza shop, right? You might have the best sauce, best cheese in the world, but it's like, okay, that's a completely different business. It doesn't really fit into like what you're currently doing as a roofer. That has low alignment, right? What's another opportunity as a roofing business that you might have? Well, maybe you want to partner with a solar company. Okay, we're getting a little better in terms of alignment, right? But okay, maybe you want to go get Master Elite certified. Okay, now that fits in, right? That would get obviously a higher alignment score. So again, you guys have access to all of these new resources in the resource packet that was handed out to you, and you'll have a digital copy. But basically, what you're going to do is go to your to-do list. I mean, virtually everybody has a to-do list, right? The problem with to-do lists is what? They never end, right? There's always something to do. So what this does, this gives you clarity on the things that you should be doing right now. Take your to-do list, plug it in, start entering in the scores, and basically this template I'm providing you guys will automatically calculate the scores for you, the IPI scores. The scores that have the highest scores, those are the things that you got to do, right? They're going to make the biggest impact, right? You're super confident in them. They're not going to require a ton of effort, and they align with what you're doing. Anything that like falls below the first 5 rows, take those off of your to-do list. What you should do is put it on a stop doing list. Who here has a stop doing list? Anybody? I think I saw one hand. We all got to-do lists, but very few of us have stop doing lists. What does a stop doing list do? It does what Billy talks about, which is so important and powerful. It gives you clarity. All right, so we saw for poor vision and poor decision making. So what's the second reason? Let's go back to our previous slides, right? The second reason was, well, we got blinders on. We're not thinking about what could be potentially coming down in the pipeline, right? We often get too complacent, right? We fail to evolve with changing times. So what we developed, AI and I, as a solution for this, is the Aurelius matrix. Remember Aurelius, the guy that took me 6 months to read his 100-page book? It's interesting how he made his way back here, right? So what is this? Well, what the Aurelius matrix is a very simple tool that you can go through in about 90 seconds. What you're going to do is you're just going to jot down all of your personal and professional dreams on the left-hand side, things that you want to accomplish in your role, in life, right? Just jot those down. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to write down the ways that you're currently making money, right? Where you're focused. If you're a salesperson, you might not have a ton of different ways. Maybe it's just paycheck to paycheck. Maybe it's commission. Maybe you've got some savings accounts. Write those down. That's perfectly fine. If you're a business owner, you might have multiple different ways, right? You might have multiple different businesses. Just jot these down. So what you're going to do after you complete that chart is you're going to take a picture of it. You're going to go to ChatGPT or Claude or any other conversational chatbot that would allow you to upload an image. If you didn't know that, yes, ChatGPT can read images. And you're going to send with that image a prompt that I've included in your resource packet. And what you're going to get back, let's see if I can get back. Can I get a little help playing this video here? What you're going to get back, this is a video of me just doing proof of concept. And you guys can see that I actually scratched this out on a piece of notebook paper and wrote down my personal goals and dreams and all of the various different ways that I'm actually earning revenue within Orpical Group today. I don't know if it's going to play. If it's not, it's all good. I can move on. It would be pretty sweet if it did, though. Nothing? All right. So I'll get you guys access to this, but you'll just have to trust me. You take this picture, you feed it in with, to ChatGPT or Claude, and you basically allow it to read your Aurelius matrix and explain what the Aurelius matrix is. What's pretty neat is that the artificial intelligence will read that within seconds. It'll extract your personal dreams and all of your income sources out, and then it'll find as to where you're aligned between your goals and the ways that you're currently making money. And it'll also look at how you're misaligned. So it'll find if there's things that you've put into your goals and dreams based on the way that you're currently making money, how realistic or how unrealistic and how attainable and how unattainable those things might be. Then beyond that, it's going to give you insights into things that could potentially prohibit you from reaching your goals and dreams, right? Things that you're blind to. It's basically looking at all of the data in the world, all of the things that could potentially be happening, right? Maybe it's an economic downturn, right? Nobody wants to talk about a market crash, but it's viable, it's possible, it could happen. What's it going to do to your business, right? Maybe it's another pandemic, right? No one wants to talk about that, but it could happen. It happened once. Who's to say it's not going to repeat itself again, right? So it can give you insights into these things that could potentially derail your business, right? But beyond that, it's going to give you recommendations on how you can adapt, how you can diversify, how you can weather the storm. And then beyond that, it's going to give you a detailed, itemized 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year plan. I don't know about you guys, but if I had told that to you 2 years ago, I think some of your heads would have exploded, right? To me, that's literally magic, right? You have the ability to now see into the future, right? What does that do for you? This is something that no other empire in human history has had access to, right? This is unprecedented technology. We just have to know how to leverage it to our best abilities so that we can continuously evolve, right? So magic is a pretty hard act to follow, and I'm not going to try and follow it with something that gets into the importance of documentation and creating SOPs and procedures, right? But essentially, that is the third pillar of the Eternal Empire framework. And it's something that AI and I developed, and it's called Scribe, right? So I'm short on time here. I've got probably a few minutes left, but what I've committed to do with Billy and the movement and all movement members and everybody that's here today, if you bought a ticket, I've committed to do an extension of this presentation and do a deep dive where we'll get into the Eternal Empire framework, how it works, how you guys can utilize it, how you can implement it and leverage it to get amazing insights to build these legacy businesses. I promised to do that in an hour workshop. We haven't nailed down the logistics just yet. But we'll get a date, we'll get a time, and we'll get that out to everybody that's in attendance today. We'll also carve out some time to have a little bit of an AI forum and get into different AI use cases and prompting techniques, pending time permits. So, all right, why did I do this? Well, what was the point of this presentation? Why did I go through this exercise? Why did I create this Eternal Empire framework with AI and I, right? We've all heard this saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Right? This is just like an idiom that's like ingrained in our vocabulary now, right? But here's a fun fact. This presentation was almost. It was actually like 3 days total, fully loaded, about 80 hours, right? Log time. Between myself, between my colleague, Melissa Garcia, who was instrumental in helping me iterate on this and take this really loose idea in my head and then just actually map it out, do all of the content development, help pilot all the AI, all that fun stuff, right? What was interesting, guys, and you have this in your resource packet too, is I took the final presentation after I was done with this, after I rehearsed it, after I felt pretty good about it, and I sent it back to AI, and I said, how much time do you think this would take if it was just 100% human labor, right? How much time from conceptualization to all of the research to doing the actual copy editing and the writing to actually doing the product development, creating the Eternal Empire framework, right? And not just creating it, like actually piloting and doing user acceptance testing, refining it so I didn't just present a load of garbage up here to you guys, something that I could actually be confident in, doing the actual presentation design to make the slides look good so they don't look like hot garbage either, right? Doing the rehearsal, getting on the plane, right? It's not unrealistic to think that that's 6 months worth of work, right? And that's essentially what artificial intelligence told me. And if you go in your resource packet, you'll see a full itemized breakdown of the hours that it would take for a human to do this, right? And it says between 1,000 to 1,200 hours. Keep in mind, we did this in 80 hours total. We did this in 2 weeks, right? It was 3 days, basically, like if we were working around the clock. That's less than 1/10 of the time. It's something that just created out of the blue. Okay? Well, yeah, how do we do that? Well, we did it because I had an idea. This didn't just magically appear. Artificial intelligence didn't do all of the work here, right? It required me to pilot it, it required me to iterate on it and give it feedback. It required actual human labor to intervene and create better graphics and give guidance and putting in historical references that the AI wasn't even trained on. There was a lot of work here, but the AI did do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? It helped create this product for us that I can come up here and then I can utilize to market Orpical and our services and provide you guys with a lot of value too, right? So you have two interdependent entities, essentially. You've got human intelligence and then you've got artificial intelligence, and they've come together and they have partnered and worked and collaborated and they've formulated something called co-intelligence, right? And this is something that no other empire in human history has had. So 100% artificial intelligence did a lot of the work here, right? And because of artificial intelligence, I've got a way to make better decisions. I've got a way that we can see into the future. I've got a way to document everything. It's awesome, right? It's great. But there's a caveat, right? Here's the thing. Artificial intelligence is freaking lazy. It's not sentient. It doesn't operate on its own, right? It needed me. It needed Melissa. It needed my business partner, Ed, to make all of this possible. It needed you guys. I needed the inspiration of coming up here and being able to deliver something of value. So it needed that human experience, that human input, right? It needed what? An emperor. It needed a leader. The thing I want you guys to take away, if you want to build an empire, you need to be a good emperor. So that leads me to my last question. What makes a really great emperor? Well, we've already established that, right? It's somebody that makes really good decisions, that's got clarity, somebody that can plan for the future and see into the future. It's somebody that sets up continuity and redundancy so the empire can keep on rolling along long after they're gone, right? And an emperor also knows how to ask really good questions and take those questions and then transform those questions into instructions, right? But above all of that, a really good emperor knows that the number one way to withstand time is to buy back their time and reinvest it. And with co-intelligence, and now with the Eternal Empire framework, which I hope you guys adopt, you have the ability to create that legacy business. So go get it on.